The little green girl. A little curiosity can blossom into a big adventure. Ready? The little green girl. Okay. The little green girl, like so many great things, began as a tiny seed. One bright morning, she unexpectedly blew into Mr. Aster's garden, and he was just as surprised as she was. Shh, there she is, right there, and that's Mr. Aster. Mr. Aster wasn't fond of unexpected things. Each and every day he followed the same routine. Rising with the sun, breakfasting on tea and toast, and then preparing for work. The garden was his home, and it was the only place where he wanted to spend his days, without any fuss or nonsense. That's his place, that's his workplace, Mr. Aster's. But tending a new sheet fit nearly to Mr. Aster's routine. Each morning, first thing after tea and toast, he made sure that she had soil for her roots and water to grow strong. And each night, he tucked a warm quilt around her before bidding her good night. Aww. In the warmth of the greenhouse, the little seed grew bit by bit under Mr. Aster's care. One bright evening, she peered through her leaves and was astonished to discover the green and glass world around her. Guys, she's growing up. Look at her tiny hands. When Mr. Aster arrived in the morning, he marveled at the extraordinary plant the seed had become. "Well, hello, little one," he said. "Welcome to our home." That very day, Mr. Aster moved the little green girl from the greenhouse out into the garden. She's getting the spot. The little green girl was curious about everything. While he smoothed the damp earth around her roots, Mr. Aster told her about the world. Look at the world. That is a flower called a daffodil, and it blooms in the spring. No, the sky isn't always blue. What you saw last night were stars. Butterflies and birds can fly, but plants and people do not. This garden is our home, and you're going to love it as much as I do. Each morning, Mr. Aster arrived with a whistle and his watering can, spent the first hours of his day with the little green girl before tending the rest of the garden. Oh, look at that, she's growing up, guys. Oh, she craned her lips to watch him work, but dropped when his weeding took him into distant part of the garden, too far for her to see. Oh, she's even spying on Papa. While Mr. Aster was busy trimming the hedgerows or grooming the rhododendron, the little green girl made friends who stopped by to play. Though she loved their silly games, she loved the things they told her about the far corners of the garden even more. She's making friends, guys. Her life was perfect until the birds paid their first visit. The birds sang her stories of the wide world beyond the garden walls, and the little girl wanted to see it all. Really? Really? It's beautiful in this? I'm imagining her saying that. Mr. Aster had never been interested in far-off places, but he saw how eagerly the little green girl listened to the birds' stories. When the last of the birds flew away, he said, "The world may be wide, little one, but there's no need to leave our garden. This is our home." Then he patted the leaves at her crown and wished her good night. Aww, she's growing up. The little green girl knew she had to take matters into her own branches. The next morning, she stretched her leaves and set vines crawling across the lawn. She bristled and shook, but didn't get very far. Mr. Aster spent the afternoon clipping and grooming her tangled vines and curled leaves. "Your leaves are growing strong here, little one. The world may be wide," he said, "but it's comfortable here in our garden. This is our home." The next day, she tried pulling her roots from the ground. She strained and tugged, but they wouldn't budge. Mr. Aster bandaged her roots where they had pulled. "Your roots are grounded here, little one. The world may be wide," he said, "but we're happy here in our garden. This is our home." The little green girl wilted. The world was wide and she wanted to see it all. Mr. Aster just didn't seem to understand. She had to do something. That evening, after Mr. Aster had settled her in and bid her good night, the little green girl devised a new plan. Oh guys, she's having a new plan and everyone's helping her, as you can see in this picture. So, when Mr. Aster returned in the morning, the little green girl was waiting. Ta-ta-da! "Well then, little one," said Mr. Aster, "it seems that you need more than soil and water to grow. Perhaps you also need that wide world out there." That very afternoon, Mr. Aster packed some tea, a loaf of bread for toast, a moustache comb, and her favorite watering can. When he had finished, he swung the gates open and they stepped beyond the garden walls. Oh, look at that little green girl going with Papa. Wow, and they are traveling the world. Yay! Look at them at the beach. And they're at this beautiful different garden. And they're at the park. And they're at the, wow, it's like a dessert. Dessert island. When at last they returned home, they found the garden in full bloom. The little green girl was surprised to discover how much she had missed it. And when the birds returned, it was the little green girl who had stories to share. While she told them of their troubles, Mr. Aster ate his breakfast outside. In the weeks that followed, Mr. Aster returned to his daily routine. Each morning after breakfast, he spent the first hours of his day with the little green girl before tending the rest of the garden. It was almost as though they had never been away. Almost. Look at this beautiful garden, guys. Then one bright morning, it was Mr. Aster who arrived unexpectedly. "Good morning, little one," Mr. Aster said. He's caught or something. "The world is wide. Where would you like to go this time?" Oh, and look at that, guys. Well, I think it's outside of Buckingham Palace. Ah! And there's outside a windmill. Oh, look at that. It's underwater. And it looks like Rio. It looks like Rio, guys. It is so beautiful. They're traveling the world. Oh, look at little green girl exploring and glowing and sharing in stories. And she has so many stories just like us to share with birds and everyone. Aww, poor Ezra. Look at Papa and little green girl together traveling the world. What a lovely story, guys. A little curiosity can blossom into a big adventure, and we are